Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Glue Guys Podcast, episode 25. I'd be lying if I could come up with a player that's worn the 25 shirt. But Chad knows all about the 25 shirt over at Real Madrid. Is that Asensio's number that I saw yesterday, or was he 35?
Nah, he's 35. 25 was one of the 7 numbers that Rodrigo wore. We all know his journey, 27 to 25 to 21 to 11. Only rivaled by Vinny's 28. Actually, shit, I think Vinny wore 25 as well. Vinny went 28, 25, 27.
But isn't it even better to go from 25 to or from 27 to 25? Like, especially as a winger, I feel like that's even worse. Like 25 is like a third string center back number to me.
Yeah, because you can at least, if you're 27, you could do that stupid ass thing. Well, that, or you can do 9 times 3. Like, that's how I think 18 became a decent number. Because it was just like, I'm twice as good as a 9. It's like, oh, okay.
I remember when Louis Van Gaal was managing United, they had a young striker named James Wilson, and he made him change his squad number to 39 so that he could have a 9 in his number because he was a striker. It was like a mentality thing, so...
Yeah, I mean, Wout Weghorst wore the 27 for United, so... Which, I gotta say, his loan spell wasn't as bad as people... I heard someone the other day talking about it as if it was like a horrible transfer. It was like, they ended up getting in the top 4 that year.
Well,
so,
who would they rather
United
have?
Would kill for now.
Who would they rather have, Wout Weghorst and Odiana Gallo up front for them right now, or Xerxes and fucking... You know who I'm talking about.
Hoyland.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's so good you couldn't even think of his name.
So I just kind of forgot it.
No, I saw a crazy stat where I think it had to have been not the Leicester game where Xerxes ended up scoring, but the game before that, or like one of the games before that, Xerxes had scored. And it was like, the first goal under Ruben Amorim between the two strikers. It was like, what? So
I know Xerxes scored on his debut because this dude literally hit the hell out of the ball. It deflected off the defender and went in, and it was like a winner. And he did the
I can't lie. After that, I was like, "Yo, he's got aura."
Okay.
So
all right. So we wanted to focus strictly on European football today, which, as Chad's kind of alluded to a couple times, kind of seems like our best work. Which seems like the stuff that we know most about. Now, I'm kind of in a predicament here. You know, 3 of the English
Europe
teams.
is tough.
3 of the English teams went through in the to the automatic qualifiers. So I only got 1 English team to talk about. I don't really know how I'm going to cope, but I'll try. But I want to start off with a little bit of Atletico Real Madrid review. I actually watched the full 90. This was the first full 90 I've watched of a La Liga game, probably like since a Messi v Ronaldo at El Clasico. So it was interesting to watch. We kind of were talking about it before we started recording, how it was just like a completely different sport. Like, to me, it just seemed like there was so much space and people had so much time on the ball, and there was tough tackling, but there wasn't as much tackling. It seemed like a lot more like, if you ever seen the movie Major League, there's a lot more of that Olay bullshit, where it's just like, this guy's running at me, I'm going to swing my leg as hard as I can. If I kick the ball, cool. If I kick him, even better. But if I miss, then who cares? So what was your sort of analysis of the game? I've seen a lot of people saying, Atletico Madrid were being some hoes and just sitting in. The ref was against us again. That's from the Real Madrid side. Atletico Madrid side is just kind of like, calma, we beat you, or it was 1-1. So what was sort of your analysis of the game as a Real Madrid fan?
Well, first off, let's not skip over Ethan's consistent campaign of Premier League bias that's being shown already. It's all good. It's all good. We'll allow it. My overall thoughts, I think, it's so funny. Whenever this derby gets played, people act like it's the first time they've seen it, where they're like, man, all they do is, like, both teams are too conservative almost to even make a mistake, even though we did see some mistakes, especially in the first half, I would say, that led to opportunities. But they're like, everyone's so afraid to make a mistake that almost no one's even really doing anything. And I think that had the feeling for at least a good certain parts of the first half. I actually think after the penalty, the game kind of started to open up a bit, especially for Atleti to kind of close out that first half. I thought Lino and Galan actually looked kind of dangerous down that left-hand side. You and I joked about how Lucas Vasquez might be in the running for worst right back in Europe right now with the form that he's in. But anytime you get taken out for a guy to then go into that position when it's his third best position at best, in Fede Valverde, that kind of says a lot about where you're at right now. And I think it's weird because Vasquez has been like, before this season, obviously no one sat here and was ripping up thought he was going to rip up trees or anything like that. But like, you thought he was a serviceable, like good right back, like guy who will come in and won't let the team down. And since this season, he's definitely let the team down a couple of times. And I think that goes back to something we harp on all the time is it's really hard to be a good player because it's really hard to be consistent for like 9 months straight. 10 months if you're playing like, August to early June, damn near the way the season is now.
Especially when you get shifted around positions. He's a lot older than a lot of people would think. You would still
he's like 33.
I said you would think that he's still like a 26-year-old, just veteran player that's still in his prime, but he's not. He's like an old player.
Right, and I don't want to sit here and harp on, Vasquez and the fact that we had kind of a makeshift defense with, Asensio and Tchouaméni at center backs because, for all of that, Atleti's only shot on target in the entire game was the penalty. So it's not like we were, while I do think that we did kind of expose more chances than what that stat will tell you, I don't think the back line did a bad job. And I thought really in the second half, the Tchouaméni-Asensio partnership is kind of starting to make a little bit more sense to me. And maybe this is just the classic talking myself into it because I kind of have no choice going into this City tie that we're going to talk about momentarily. But Asensio, as we talked about, he's the pacey, athletic, if you isolate him, that thing where the teams kind of press up and man mark and match up, and then it's kind of 1v1, the striker versus one of the center backs running into space. Like that Alvarez play that we talked about before we started recording.
In that right
I'm comfortable with him winning that matchup on the ground a really good amount of time. And then Tchouaméni, I think, can be a little bit more of the organizer of the group. So I don't hate it right now. I was really disappointed at how we looked attacking-wise in the first half. I just thought it was very pedestrian. I talked to you, like 0.18 XG in the first half is just outrageous. And I know, look, we talk, as you mentioned, kind of Atleti came to the game looking to park the bus, hit on the counter, get the hell out of town with 3 points if possible, but we'll be more than satisfied with 1. And Madrid didn't look like they wanted to win the game until the second half when they fell behind. And that's the thing I'm kind of sick of is why it always takes like a moment, like something has to happen for this team to like kick it into the next gear. Like they have to give up a goal or they have to get screwed on a penalty decision or something like that to be like, all right, we'll actually start playing and up in the tempo. And that's just annoying, I feel like, as a Madrid fan.
Yeah, I texted you partway through the first half, and obviously I don't watch a lot of Madrid, if at all, maybe a couple times in the Champions League, but in build-up, it was like it would seem like you guys kind of had like 5 people around the ball in the back line, and then like everyone else was kind of just on the wings, and like even Mbappe was vacating the middle. The only center mid help they had was like 5-10 yards away from the back line, and you would look up, and it would be like a 30-yard space just in the middle of Atleti that they were just like, yeah, we're not even going to go in there. And it was just so weird, especially with your explosive forwards, I would think, and, pretty creative forwards too. It's not like they're not good, assisters or passers. So I would just think if you had a Vinny or a Mbappe or whoever arriving in there, picking up the ball in a quick space, then having those other quick runners off of them, that they'd be able to create off of that, which I think they ended up trying a little bit more in the second half, getting guys in there quickly, little flicks around the corner, little interchanges. Saw a nice one with Rodrigo and Vasquez on the right, on that sort of right near the corner flag. And so it just seemed, like you said, no one's trying to make a mistake, which I think is sort of a pretty crappy analysis, because if you go in there and you're like, all right, we're going to high press, we're going to attack with everything, and then you concede 2 goals in like the first 20 minutes, then everyone's going to be like, oh, Carlo, you're an idiot. Why would you just throw everyone forward? So it's kind of a no-win situation. You're either making the fans upset, playing a bad brand of football, or you're smart. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's, Carlo in this spell that he's been in, I would say one of the key features that or characteristics that stands out is he's very defensive and conservative in big matchups. We've played City, I think, the last 3 years in the Champions League, and he's damn near parked the bus from minute 1 of the first leg in all 3 of them. Except for, I would say, last year when we opened up a bit just because City's defense was so horrible.
I'm confused. I thought you couldn't win big trophies if you did that.
That's what Rodri said, but his undefeated streak was still going, so that's all that matters. And then even against Bayern in the semifinal last year, I don't feel like we were necessarily taking the game to them. Hell, even Dortmund in the final, you kind of look up after 60 minutes and you're like, really, Madrid have taken 2 shots on target maybe or something like that. So that's kind of been his formula. I can't necessarily criticize it because of the results it's given us, but if you look at us in big games this season, we just haven't been impressive. The struggles against Barcelona, well documented. A draw against Atleti earlier in the season was not the worst thing a draw against Atleti earlier in the season on that Correa last-minute equalizer isn't the worst thing in the world. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. And then this one, it's kind of that thing we talked about where when you look at the individual games, is a draw against Atleti horrible? No. The losses against Barca have definitely been horrible, but I don't know. It just hasn't been. But then you look at the whole body of work, and it's like, shit, we haven't won a game against a big team this season. I mean, even if you count, Milan in the Champions League, Liverpool in the Champions League, these are games that we've struggled in throughout the season, and it's very contrasting to last year. Last year against Barca, we were very good. Atleti, we were very good. I think we lost to them. We lost to Atleti. Was actually the only team that beat us in the whole season last year, but we played them 5 times and they beat us twice. So, because that was the weird thing where we played them in every competition. So, I know I'm rambling on a bit, but just slight cause for concern for Madrid. But at the same time, we're still in first right now, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah, I mean, even when I was watching that game, it was kind of just look at the back line, and not even saying as far as defending, but there are some of those people you would want in other positions where it's you can't, you would want Tchouaméni to be in the midfield. You would want other sort of combinations of players in the midfield, but you can't play them because you're having to play a Tchouaméni in the back line. You're having to put a Fede Valverde at right back. I actually heard on the commentary at ESPN, they were like, if you were managing Real Madrid, would you put Fede Valverde at right back or center back, or sorry, at center mid against Man City? And for me, I'm kind of on the side where you kind of been talking about the past couple weeks, where it's we should just do everything we can to overrun the Man City midfield. And I'm not really concerned about Savinho coming in on his right foot and kicking the ball out of bounds, or Omar Marmoush doing a cool flick and then hitting it into Rosette. I'm not really concerned about any of those things. Lucas Vazquez, as poorly as he played, I mean, how many goal-scoring opportunities came off of the things that he
really
did.
Just that one after the Galan chance, which, to be honest, I mean, to even call that a chance is maybe, overselling it a little bit, because he was right on the outside of the area.
Which it kind of more speaks to, Atleti's lack of conviction the final third. And you kind of see that even in the Champions League this year, where it's they're not scoring a ton of goals, which you never would expect an Atleti team to. But you kind of look at their team, and it's I feel like their team is too good to just be hey, we can't score.
Yeah, and they actually have. I'm glad you said that, because they actually have a lot of attacking combinations of obviously I hate anyone that plays for Atleti, but if they were in different situations, I wouldn't mind them. Sorloth, I don't think is bad. I obviously love Griezmann, even though he's more, the stuff we both love about Griezmann is more stuff outside of just the pure goal scoring or even attacking stuff with him. So, But even like some of the wing options, like I think Simeone, talking about Giuliano, has been pretty good for them. Like he's been a good injection of pace and work rate on the right side for them. He's been able to beat a man. So, and they have a lot of midfield. Like they have a bunch of midfielders I really rate. Like Barrios, I think is really good. Llorente, I think has been really good. Not as much now. DePaul, like they have a bunch of really. I mean, they have so many guys. Thomas Lemar, who I still haven't given up on, doesn't even sniff the match day squad for them. So,
well, at one point they had like Griezmann, Alvarez, and Angel Correa, I think, all on the pitch at the same time.
Yeah.
This dude, Griezmann, was like falling into a CM role in a 4-4-2. It was kind of hilarious, but it was just like, you can't tell me, you look at that lineup and be like, yeah, well, there's no way we can score goals. And then they're putting on, like you said, guys like Sorloth, a guy like Thomas Lemar not even being able to get on the pitch. And it's like, I understand what you're saying, and like, we need to defend, we need to whatever, but like, you saying you don't have the attacking threat is kind of disingenuous.
It's really funny because I think probably the thing that they missed the most, and this is a guy who they literally had, would be like a Garnacho type, as a guy who, because as much as I like Simeone, a lot of the stuff we like, or I like about him, is off the ball. Like a lot of these guys, the stuff we like about him is off the ball. Versus like a guy like Garnacho who can actually either beat a guy in behind, or he can like just straight up face a guy up and go past him.
Right.
Obviously not to the consistency that you would want for a guy who would be starting for Atleti, but like just the fact that they had him, a couple years ago and sold him for what's now peanuts to Man United, which I think it's so funny that could be a theme across Europe, because like Juve have sold at least 3 guys who they use desperately. With like Housen, Moise Keane, and like one other guy who I can't remember. Well, or maybe just the decision
Ronaldo?
to let. No, they can't. They couldn't use his wages, but maybe just the decision to let Sandro and Danilo go when you have literally no defenders, even if they are like 100 years old. So don't want to change. Don't want to turn this into a Juve segment, but just some thoughts.
Well, speaking of Juve, let's get into the Champions League. I think they call it the knockout phase playoffs. That's what it's called, the knockout phase playoffs. So I want to quickly explain sort of what's going on for people that aren't keeping up with the new format. I know we've kind of had this talk a couple of times, but just make sure everyone's on the same page. So we're currently in the knockout phase, or knockout playoff phase. All right, so there's 24 teams still in the competition. 16 of them are playing in this round, and 8 teams are already in the round of 16. So the people that finished in the top 8, they're gone. They're already into the round of 16. And so teams are now matched up based on seeding in a way where it's like the 24th seed is playing the 9th seed. The 16th seed is playing the 17th seed. Basically playing the opposite number. Okay? And teams will advance and play on of teams in the next round depending on the draw of teams in sequential seeds. So, for example, Monaco and Benfica are the 16 and 17 seeds. Whoever wins that will then either play Liverpool or Barcelona, who finished first or second in the league phase. So, really just, if you're not following, just watch the games, and then whoever they play next, they play next. All perfectly confusing, but this may be better than the old format, but we have to give it a chance, okay? Like me and Chad always like to joke about, I know people in football hate change, but it seems to have given us some pretty fun results so far. Like I said, teams like Villa and Lille already being in the round of 16, finishing in that top 8 is something that no one would have predicted before, but people are trying to pretend like there have been no surprises just because City didn't go out, or just because Real Madrid didn't go out. It's like, oh, well, it's the same thing that happens every year. It's like, well, you would think they would probably finish in the top 8 if things were normal.
That's what I wanted to ask, is like, when we talk about better versus worse and all that stuff, like what actually is even, and I know it's a lot like art, which the whole sport is this way, where it's in the eye of the beholder, but like what would anyone like what would have to happen for people to like come to a consensus to be like, oh, it's better or oh, it's worse? Like, because you talk about like there are like 3 different criteria depending on who you are. Is it like, you want big matchups? You want teams coming out of nowhere, like the unexpected Cinderella, or like
well, people just want things that can't happen. They're like, oh, I want to see a world where like. Well, and then even if they were to get it, they would call it shitty too. They'd be like, yeah, I want a world where we have a quarterfinal round of Feyenoord, Sporting, Benfica, and Ajax. I would want that. It's like, you want to watch Ajax versus Benfica in a Champions League quarterfinal, and the winner goes on to play Feyenoord versus Sporting? That's what you want to see. Yeah. Versus, you don't want to see Vinny. You don't want to see... shit, I guess Phil Foden. I don't know. You don't want. I don't know who wants to see him, but you don't want to see those guys. You'd rather see. It was like
2 years ago.
Yeah, go on.
No, sorry, but it was like 2 years ago when. No, well, but at least with the Villarreal one, they beat Bayern to get to wherever they got to the later stages. But it was it was 2 years ago when Inter ended up making the final. But it was like. In that side of the bracket, it was like Inter, Milan, Benfica, and Napoli. I'm pretty sure were like the 4 teams, which three Italian teams. You obviously know how you're feeling about the quality of that part of the bracket. But then in the other part, it was like City, Real Madrid, Bayern, and no, because that was like a year or two before.
Oh, you're talking about yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about like just 2 years ago.
All the good teams are on one side of
and I think it might even been PSG.
Yeah.
Because Milan or because City beat Madrid and then Bayern beat PSG and then City beat the hell out of Bayern. But yeah, all that, and it's like, okay, so is that like a better format because we got to see Inter, who I guess at the time would have been considered an unexpected team, but hell, any of those 4 teams, if they would have made the final, like at the beginning of that season, if you would have been like, hey, Napoli are going to make the final, you'd be like, yeah, okay, cool. So it just like the eternal quest for what is going to bring consensus happiness to soccer, to the football community more so. And as always, the answer is nothing. There is nothing that can be done.
Because literally every format that you'd come up with, even if it satisfied a need of someone, they would come up with something. It's like, oh, we just want to see the best teams play. And it's like, well, I thought you guys all hated the Super League idea. Oh, we do. That has nothing to do. That's not football. Okay, so you want to see some of the lesser teams get a chance, right? Well, no, we don't want to see like Villarreal in the Champions League semifinal. That's boring because we know what they're going to lose. Okay, so you guys want sort of a mix of both. So why don't we have it so the top 8 is made up of teams like Villa and Lille, but also Liverpool and Barca? No, that's stupid. Why does Lille get to go through? And it's like, okay, never mind, whatever.
And they have to play 2 extra games to get to that point? Heck no.
That's the thing, too. No chance. It's like they did get punished for it. Like they're through. Those teams, like City and Real Madrid, are through. But one of them is going out in this round, and the other one, it's like, oh, congrats, you had to play 2 extra games to get through. Which I know people like to pretend like that isn't a lot, but it is.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe it's not that I don't think it's a lot, but I just am sick of the people who lose their mind over like, yo, they have to play 65 games in a 10-month span.
No, that's stupid, but also at the same time, it's like that's the part of being good that's hard. Like it's hard to be good because it's like then you have to play 65 games. Like I guarantee you, like Everton plays 40 games a year because they go out as soon as they get in the EFL Cup, they go out. As soon as they get in the FA Cup, they get out and then they play their 38 league games. Yeah. So it's like
exactly. We're talking about like 5 teams that deal with this.
I say, but if you're Real Madrid, then you got to play your 38 league games, and you got to play like 15 Champions League games, and then you have to play like 5 Copa del Rey games, and you have to play the Spanish Super Cup games, and then you have to play the UEFA Super Cup, and you have to play. That's what makes it hard to be a good team, and so. The people that say, oh, there's so many competitions, blah, 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 it doesn't make any sense because then you'll look up all these competitions like, oh, they've all been around for 100 years. But somehow these games only count now, somehow, some way.
Yeah, it's like the Nobody Cares About Cup. which we can officially now say on this podcast since Arsenal are out. It's a Mickey Mouse trophy.
That's not true. That's not true.
You're right. Liverpool are still in it.
So if they win it, it's like Steve Slott's a better manager than Mikel Arteta because he won the EFL Cup. So
well, I'll say this.
Too, to be fair.
I don't know what Liverpool narrative I'd be rooting for because I hate Klopp to death, but my thing is like.
So is it Klopp should have won more with this team, and look what Slot did, versus what's the other side?
Well, the other side is just the ass kissing that they're doing for Slot in the same way that they did it for Klopp. Just kind of like that continuing on, being like, look at all these shit cups that we won. And it's like, oh, okay, that's why you spend that money to win a cup.
But the thing I don't really understand about Liverpool is it's like somehow, some way, their players are amazing. All their players are underrated, and they're actually amazing. Salah's the best forward in the world. Virgil van Dijk's the best center back of all time. Gravenberch is actually amazing. Alexis McAllister is actually amazing. This stuff is all true. But
Gravenberch has been good.
Trent's the best right back in the world. Alisson's the best goalkeeper in the world. That whole kind of thing. But Slot's a great manager because he's gotten them to win games.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's like the inverse of what they do about Mikel in Arsenal. They're like, okay, so the players are shit, the club is shit, and the manager sucks ass. But they went through in the top 8 of they went through 3rd in the Champions League, and they're 2nd in the league. But yeah, they're fucking horrible. They're a terrible team, and their manager's terrible.
I don't know if it would be the best thing for the podcast, but I think mental health has to come first. I think we just need to take Twitter off here. Because, like, somehow you find a way to find the worst slice of social media, people. Because, like, you'll say something, and I'll be like, oh, there's no way in hell that's true. And then you'll send me, like, 3 things where people are like, Arsenal are terrible. And I'm like, where do you... Like,
10,000 likes.
Yeah. That was almost as bad as the European lad saying that Tchouaméni isn't Real Madrid quality. I was like, oh, shit.
Well, he's just a troll, though.
Like, I don't... I think he is, but I don't know if it's on purpose. Like, that's the thing. I don't know how much of it is purposeful trolling versus, like, I just don't understand. Like, it was what we were talking about earlier about, like, not understanding the game or not being able to see, like, exactly what's happening. It's like, it's not that complicated.
I mean, even, like, the Saliba shit, just one last thing. The Saliba, like, I literally didn't get to see the Arsenal game against Newcastle the other day, but we lost 2-0, and apparently Saliba made, like, a crazy mistake that's never been made before by a great player. And it's like, see, this is the guy you guys were comparing to Van Dijk. It's like, this dude Van Disney literally got done by Isak, like, the first year he was here. People are pretending like Liverpool has never conceded a goal because of Van Dijk. Sorry, I've never conceded a goal, period, because Van Dijk is on the pitch. And then it's just like, every time they concede, it's just... and so it's like, oh shit, he's such a great leader. But whatever, we'll move on because I kind of don't have time for it. I'm trying to get off Twitter lately, so but we'll see.
I'm glad. That's a good New Year's resolution for you.
So let's go into the playoff round. So we have all the fixtures up here.
Just real quick, sorry. I know we got to get to it. I got an announcement for you. By the way, Van Dijk did start in the 4-1 loss versus Napoli in the Champions League a couple years back, which was easily one of the worst Liverpool performances I've ever seen.
Wait, who's next to him? I'm confused.
Joe Gomez.
What?
England international.
Well, he was underrated, I think. I was actually kind of dicking Van Dijk the other day, funnily enough, because was it to you? Who was I talking to? Where it was like someone was talking about Konate and how good he is. I was like, that's funny.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's funny because I thought Joel Matip was like an underrated, insane center back, and I thought before that Joe Gomez was an underrated, insane center back. Yep. And it's like, oh no, it's actually just Van Dijk is really good. So for those of you saying
even,
I'm a Van Dijk hater,
going all the way back, I mean, when it was Van Dijk and who was that Eastern Bloc dude they had at center? Yeah. When it was them two, it was still like,
oh, he's actually not bad.
Yeah. Lovren can work in a compact back line because Van Dijk can run. It's like, all right, cool.
Yeah, so, I mean, Van Dijk, good players make other players better. Simple as that. But Liverpool don't have any good players because Slot's such a good manager. He's been able to do good things with them. But actually, all their players are really good. So, it's funny how that works. So, round of 16 is coming up.
No.
But to get into that, hey.
Okay.
Don't. Okay? But
He's cooking.
But to get into that, we have to go through the playoff round. So, I have all the matchups here. I'm going to save City Real Madrid for last because we'll probably have the most to say about that. We're not going to go super in-depth about all these, but just want to give a couple talking points and maybe give a prediction on each. Let's start with the French derby. All right, Brest versus PSG. PSG have actually been in some really, really good form. They're on a 16-match unbeaten streak, and they're 22 points clear of Brest in the league, who I don't even think Brest are in a European spot right now. But I think PSG are on an 11-game win streak or something insane like that in a 16-match unbeaten streak. Looked like they're finally starting to get stuff together. They finished the league phase with 3 straight wins, including wins against real teams too, not just fucking created teams.
City.
Yeah. Well.
Sorry, that might be more creative. The one that was most impressive to me was they beat Stuttgart. I think it was 3-1 on the last game.
Yep.
And the reason why that one was most impressive is because that's the classic, PSG, but there are also 50 other teams that you could say this about too, where it's, hey, we got this huge city game, and then we got to take care of business against Stuttgart. Nothing would be classic PSG more than coming out, winning the city game, and then laying an egg against Stuttgart and going out, not even making it to the knockout playoff. But they just immediately took care of business in that game. Pretty sure Dembele opened the score. Or no, it might have been Barcola.
Barcola scored, and then Dembele hat-trick.
Yeah, opened the scoring, and they dominated that one. So I've been impressed with their run of form recently as well.
Yeah, so, even if you look at their losses, it's is that even bad form? Arsenal 2-0 in England.
Yeah.
Atletico 2-1 at home.
In a game that they dominated. Atleti... That's one of the, on Simeone's tombstone of how the hell did they come out and win this game?
Yeah.
That's almost at the top of the list.
And then Bayern away 1-0 with Dembele getting sent off. I think that was the game where it was just a bizarre sending off where it's just what is even happening?
It was a stupid decision. No, it was a stupid decision by Dembele because he was already on a yellow and then he
flew into that tackle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
but either way, it's just Dembele's been really good lately, and then Chad's boy Barcola has been good, and it's kind of you don't want to play against those guys.
I'm almost positive, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm 99% sure Dembele has 8 in his last 3 games. Because he went back-to-back hat tricks, and then he scored a brace against... and that's the other thing. PSG, like you said, they've been playing not only good teams in Europe, but they've actually played, I know everyone laughs at France, but whatever the next group of best teams in France are,
beat
that's
Monaco
who they've been 4-1, playing.
Beat PSG, or beat Brest 5-2, beat Lens.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. These teams just played each other.
Yeah.
So we kind of saw the formula in that one. You haven't even mentioned a guy who I just think has been arguably the best midfielder in the whole Champions League group stage so far this season.
Gomez?
Neves, but yeah.
Sorry, I was...
Gomez hasn't...
Wolves was on my mind, man. I was thinking of Pedro Gomez, but yeah.
You must have been watching that Blackburn game, seeing my boys Todd Cantwell and Emmanuel Dennis run the wings for Blackburn.
People were really trying to look me in the eye that Todd Cantwell, Arsenal should buy him 5 years ago.
I thought he maybe not Arsenal level, but I thought for maybe a second tier upwardly mobile team,
like Leicester at the time.
Yeah, basically. I was man, he could play the 10 for you and give you depth on the left.
Wait, I'm confused. How many positions did he have?
Shit. Yep, that was a problem. Okay. I didn't know it at the time. This was 2020.
Yeah. So but going on to Joao Neves, who scored a sick goal against City, by the way.
Yeah, he did. I think he's just been the best midfielder. I think he's arguably the most complete midfielder maybe in Europe. I mean, I know that's a wild shout to say about a guy who I think is 20 years old and is like 5'2", but like somehow he's still strong enough and compact enough to like not be overrun or anything like that. Has the physicality piece, obviously has the technical ability, the passing element, and this season has been able to add something that he never had at Benfica, really, which is a real eye in the final third, both scoring and assisting. He's the top assister in Ligue 1 this year. I think he has 7 or 8 right now.
7 assists. He's 97th percentile in assists among midfielders. So,
yeah. Which, by the way, I gotta shout out Ligue 1. I don't know if this is great or terrible. So at the halfway point of the season, they obviously like halfway table, stat leaders, all that. The guy who's the leading scorer and assister at the halfway point of the season wear like a special crest on their shirt for the second half of the season.
There's a hockey league in Europe. I think it's the Swiss league where the league top scorer at the time wears a gold helmet.
Okay, see, that's sweet. I can't lie, that's sweet.
Like he wears,
which I know sounds very contradicting to what I'm saying, but anytime you can get a gold helmet out there, I'm just for that.
So you'll be watching it, and it's like the team, the entire team has black helmets, and it's just a dude with a gold helmet out there, just rocking it. And then you get it taken off you if you're not the top scorer.
I was gonna say because it's not permanent enough that it has to like be like, all right, there has to be like a ceremony when the shit's switched. Versus like this PSG thing where like, hey, you're not going to unstitch it from like the 50 jerseys you've already made for the dude or whatever.
Right.
So, but enough kind of, around the edges about the tie. Yeah, exactly. Who do you have? What are you thinking?
I think PSG is going to go through fairly comfortably. Yeah. I think they're going to probably, I'd assume they'd win both legs. I don't think there's really going to be any controversy about it. Brest, good meme, not going to go through to the round of 16.
And to be fair, good story too. Like, because how many times have we talked about the team that overachieves from the previous year, and then they get to the Champions League, and then they end up fourth with 2 points.
Union Berlin.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even Newcastle the year they made it. Now, granted, a little bit of a different circumstance because they had a really tough group, but still, like the teams that make it that one season and then immediately are bottom of the group stage. Don't even get to the Europa League in the old format. But Brest should be proud.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go to Juve PSV. Now this is one of Chad's 2 favorite clubs, so I know he'll have a lot to say about it. Just quickly, sort of putting some background on it. Your boy Kolo Muani has been absolutely on fire. He has been
him and Dembele, two most informed attackers in Europe.
I mean, Kolo Muani, I saw he scored back-to-back braces in Serie A. I mean, I think he has like 6 goals in like 4 or 5, like 6 or 7 goals in like 4 or 5 games.
He's 5 and 3, 5 and 3 for him. Yeah.
So it's just.
Have you seen any of the goals?
No, hell no. Are they just like tap-ins or something?
One of them. You saw the Kusanov goal yesterday for City.
Yeah,
it's one of those is literally that
he got hit with the ball and it went in.
Yeah, someone else takes a shot, it deflects off of Kolo Muani and it's his goal.
Poacher's
and
goal.
Then he has like 2 like right in front of the ball is just loose right in the 6 and he's just like there. And then he has like one where he actually two of them were actually pretty good, to be fair. He isolated, beat a man, and then the Como one he just ripped it top bends, and it was actually pretty sweet.
That's exciting because that means that Man United are gonna just look at the goal total
65
this summer and be like, "Yep, 80." I need him.
I don't know. I mean. Can't put anything past Manchester United, but let's not even go there right now.
But Kolo Muani, Vlahovic, my boy Conceição, Yildiz, McKennie playing the 10. I think they're just going to have too much for PSV, and this is going to kind of sound like a joke and a meme, but Ricardo Pepi has been ruled out for the rest of the year, and he's kind of been like off the bench like a really, really good goal scorer for them. I looked at his minutes to goal ratio. I think he's scoring a goal every like 53 minutes in all comps for them. He's been really good, even scoring in the Champions League, and I think not having that goal threat as well as just like their overall quality, because this is where you even start to see just like, I mean, you see it definitely in the league phase, but it becomes even more pronounced in like knockout stage type football, where it's like the gulf and quality is just so great that you're just like, not even that Juve is like the greatest team on planet Earth, obviously. I mean, I think they're fourth right now in Serie A, but fourth in the Serie A versus like first in
the Eredivisie.
In the Eredivisie, and I even wrote this down on my document. I was just like, unless there's like a really, really good case, teams outside the top 5 leagues, I'm just going to find it hard to predict them winning unless there's like a really strong case, and I don't really think PSV have it.
Yeah, agree with a lot of what you said. The thing that's weird, and the Ricardo Pepi thing is crazy. He has the most league goals of anyone on the team with 11. He's played the 7th most minutes of any attacker.
Right.
But yeah, that'll be a huge miss. I think the weird thing is the case for PSV is Juve really have not been good in the Champions League. Like looking at the numbers, they have the worst XG differential of any team that made it to the knockout round. Like significantly. They're at like minus 0.5 per 9. They're twice as bad as PSV.
And in the Champions League phase, again in 8 games, they scored 9 and conceded 7. So
and that's the weird thing about Juve is like the Malta came in and it was like, man, new football, new invention, and da-da-da. And then they just like started off on this weird streak of like, they didn't allow a league goal in like their first 9 games. And I was like, what? And at first I thought it was like, man, the defense must be solid. But now it's just like, dude, they're just playing like conservatively. And I think Di Gregorio has actually been a very good signing for them. He's come up with a lot of very big saves. So that's, in part of it. But at the same time, like, they're just playing way too conservative for the way I feel like, with the attackers that you just listed off, Chico Conceição, Nico Gonzalez, like even Tim Weah has had some moments where he's looked like a really good attacker. And I promise you, I'm not just bringing him and Pepe up because we're Americans either. But like, and then like if you're able to get what you've gotten out of Kolo Muani, these are 2 teams that to me are actually a lot similar, like very, very similar in the sense that a lot of mid-tier attacking depth. Like honestly, it's really weird to say when you look at a team like Juve and you look at a team like PSV, like money wise, where those teams are. But if you just threw like the top 10 attackers in that game into a pot and said which one plays for which team, like quality wise, I don't know if I would say all the Juve ones play for Juve and all the PSV ones play for PSV. And then the midfield is really going to be the battle that I'm going to be keyed in on with this one. When you're talking about Kefren Turam, Tayan Koopmeiners, and then Locatelli, who's actually been class for Juve this year. Them matching up against the PSV midfield of Veerman, Gustil, and then Schouten, who I think is I'm actually very surprised Manchester City didn't try and sign Jordi Schouten in the January window if they were like desperate for a immediate fix at the DM position.
Well, they got it.
But
Nico Gonzalez.
Yeah, they got it for 10 minutes, which I actually feel bad for him. And I'll say I was listening to ESPN FC. Whoever did the interview with Pep after the game yesterday, it might have been the worst interview all time. Because, like, Pep was like, yeah, Nico Gonzalez goes out after 10 minutes and they don't even call a foul. Welcome to English football. And then the person doing the interview, and look, I'm not trying to shit on anybody, but she was like, yeah, and I mean, the weather really welcomed him too. Pep just looked at her and didn't say anything. So that's bad when you're leaving the person you're interviewing speechless. I'm actually going to... This is like my only upset I have. Juve are heavy favorites in this one. I actually think PSV are going to go through. I just don't think... I've been on Juve all season, and now I'm just kind of... Their league form, okay. They've been all right. They even played well in a game against Milan and Inter, back-to-back, I think it was. But just too much inconsistency for me.
Fair.
And Kalulu, who's been their best defender this season, is out for the tie. So
Yeah.
that kind of pushes it over the edge.
And also, these ties are this week and next week, so anyone that's out right now is probably going to be out for those those ties.
That's another huge difference between the old format versus this one. The old format, it was like over in December. You don't see the teams again till February for the first leg, and then like mid-March for the second leg. So
you could be two different teams by that time.
Honestly, and nothing embodied that more than that PSG Barca tie we were talking about, or PSG Bayern tie from a couple years back. It was like two completely different sides. But this one, it's like boom, back-to-back weeks, and it's like right after the group stage finishes up. So current form is going to be important for this.
Yes, exactly. So to be fair, that pitch at Leyton Orient was insane on Pep's side, and honestly. Shout out to Jordy Schouten, who was born a day before you, so that's how you know he's fucking washed. That's why he didn't get that move.
Damn, never mind. I thought he was a bit younger. I thought he was like 26.
January 27, or shit, January 12th, 1997. So
I was gonna say, who was he born before?
Next we have Sporting versus Dortmund. Now this is two teams in pretty poor form. I looked at the Sporting form, and it was literally just like draw merchants in Liga NOS, and then Borussia Dortmund were 11th in the league. They just got a new manager, Niko Kovac, who's honestly I didn't know that they were going to hire him because he's a Bayern legend. He's in the Bayern Hall of Fame for that 14 months he was there, I think. And Sporting have better win and unbeaten numbers, but again, poor in the last few match weeks since Ruben Amorim left. It's just been kind of weird results and just not anything very inspiring from them. Like I said, even in the league, they're not even doing that well, and
they're not ripping it up like they were or when Amorim was still there.
Correct. I mean, you see right here. So they beat City 4-1, and then Amorim left. Since then, they've gone 5-1 loss at home to Arsenal. 2-1 loss away against Bruges, 2-1 loss away at RB Leipzig, who are horrible in the Champions League, and then a 1-1 Bologna draw at home. So literally, almost all but one of the points that they picked up were under Amorim, and now he's not their manager anymore. So, I mean,
it's not a good sign.
Not a good sign. However, Borussia Dortmund are 11th in La Liga, or in the Bundesliga.
I was going to say they're 11th in La Liga, and they don't even play. They don't even play there. That's how bad they are.
I was about to say, so they're 11th in the Bundesliga. They have a new manager.
Yeah,
but
real quickly, what did you like? I know you kind of touched on it. What did you actually think of the Kovac hire? Because I thought it was one of the strangest ones of like the past couple years.
I just feel like,
or do you even care? I'm not even saying it in a negative way, but are you just like, I give up?
I just assumed that they were going to hire Eric Ten Hag. Is the only part that's kind of blowing my mind. Is I just assumed like it kind of seemed very straightforward and like, oh, he's been known as kind of like, I mean, Ajax and Dortmund are kind of seen in a similar lane, which is insane, but it's true. Like kind of like develop young players, overachieve with what you have, don't have a ton of resources, but you're weirdly a big club, like that kind of a thing.
Sure.
So I just assumed that he would be able to make that transition, and then them going for Kovac was just kind of strange because the stuff he was doing at Frankfurt before Dortmund or before Bayern was kind of like more getting veteran players and reviving careers, and taking little and overachieving with it, but not in the style that Dortmund do it. So I just thought that it was a little bit strange more than anything else. But Bayern have been, keep saying Bayern, whatever. Dortmund haven't been very good in the Champions League either. I mean, their last three results, it was losing to Barca at home, losing to Bologna away. They did beat Shakhtar Donetsk, but it's like, come on, man.
No, that Bologna result was concerning because they like sneakily, like if they would have won that game, they would have easily, I think, been in the top 8.
They conceded 2 goals in a minute. I didn't even know that was possible. Like, that includes scoring the goal, getting the ball back to the halfway line while the other team's celebrating, and then you concede again, like in that next minute. Yeah. But they have had big results against Celtic, I guess, at home. I mean, even being Sturm Graz 1-0 at home, it's just like...
Yeah.
And then, obviously, you guys smashed them up in Madrid. and so it's just not very promising. I know they have some of your boys there, like Jamie Bino Gittins and people like that, but they're not even scoring goals. If you look in the league table, they're conceding way too many goals because they're scoring a shit ton. They've scored 22, which I think is the second most in the Champions League phase. But conceding 20 is conceding 12 is insanity. Like,
still, I was going to say 20, there's no way they would have been in this round. Yeah. I've been like, damn.
But conceding 12 is just like insanity. If you're conceding more than a goal a game, you're not going to really do well in any of these knockout competitions. So, Kovac has been a pretty decent cup manager, but I think he'll be able to do Sporting over 2 legs just because I feel like their quality in the way that Sporting, like I said, I'm going to need a really compelling case for any of these non-top 5 league teams to go through, and they just haven't been good since Amorim left. I get it, Gyökeres is apparently the best forward in the world until he's not, and then he gets to go back into his shell when he's not performing. Then when he is performing, it's whatever. But I wouldn't be afraid of a Sporting, even if I'm going through a rough phase, and we haven't even really seen a huge new manager bounce from Kovac yet, and I think that might be part of the plans, having a new manager, Champions League night at home, and you're kind of like, all right, let's do this, let's actually start getting this stuff together, and I think that Dortmund are going to go through.
Yeah, I think, this one especially is where I'm looking at I don't think there's really a strong case for the non-top 5 team as much as, some of the other matchups we're going to talk about. Morten Hjulmand, the defensive midfielder for Sporting, who I think would be key in this matchup. He's suspended for the first leg, so already kind of behind the 8 ball there. And like you said, the form post-Amorim has just been shitty. Like, there's no other way around it.
And it doesn't look horrible because they're not losing a ton, but just dropping points consistently in Liga NOS is just not going to be good for Champions League form.
Yeah, I was going to say, in that league specifically for them, combined with how they started the season, plus just historically spending versus other teams, draws basically our losses. And yeah, they've got some exciting players. I really love their back 3 is a crazy thing. Diamond, Ignacio, and then Zeno de Bast. I think those 3 are really good quality, really young center backs, obviously. But I just don't know if they're going to have enough midfield punch to really be able to me, the midfield is the area where Dortmund are losing a lot of their games right now. Their midfield is getting overrun. Emre Can, when he's having to play in there, he just doesn't have the legs, which I think Kovac has recognized. He started him at center back in the one game he's fully taken charge of as manager. So we'll see if that continues. But I think Dortmund in the midfield is where you can beat them, and without Hjulmand, I just don't think Sporting are going to have enough in the midfield. So I'm going to go slight Dortmund, but at the same time, this is another one where I'm not cool. Either one of these teams is in the or is in the round of 16. Nothing like that. So I think the teams that they could play, Lille and Villa. I mean, God, one of those teams are going to be in the quarterfinal between Lille, Villa, Sporting, and Dortmund. Shit.
Yeah. So it's going to get awkward over there on that part of the table or of the bracket, but.
Exactly.
That's what we want. Next.
By the way, Carney Chukwuemeka arriving on a short-term loan injured got to be one of the funniest things ever. Not that injuries are funny.
No, they're funny.
But go on.
Next tie is Club Brugge versus Atalanta. Atalanta's going to go through. I don't really feel like spending a ton of time on it. Club Brugge, three wins, 2 draws, and 3 losses. Only scored 7 goals, conceded 11. Whereas Atalanta isn't conceding really at all. They've only conceded 6, scored 20. I don't think there's really much to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. I will say maybe the one possible quibble for Atalanta is their center back depth. Scalvini, obviously out for the season with that shoulder injury, really sucks because he had just come back from that ACL he tore right at the end of last season.
Right. And I was really looking forward to seeing him in the Euros, and I didn't get to. But instead I got to watch Calafiori play, so.
That's tough. Yeah, did the Scalvini injury lead to Calafiori going to Arsenal? I think that could go in that Bill Simmons what ifs thing that he would always do for Grantland. The sliding doors, I guess it was. But yeah, so Scalvini's out, and then Kolasinac, which is
another Arsenal legend.
Exactly. He's out at least for the tie. So, you're talking about like who's playing center back for them. Possibly Darun might even have to step in there, which if Darun is defending in wide areas at, I think he's 30, about to be 34, that scares me. But at the end of the day, I just don't think Club Brugge have enough quality. So, yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, exactly. So, not really much to say about that tie. Now, Feyenoord versus Milan is going to be interesting. They lost to Zagreb, which was obviously very strange.
Strange is probably the nicest word you could use, way you could describe it.
However, I mean, I actually did watch that game, and it was like just a very, very weird red card for my boy Yunus Musa.
Yep. Bless you.
Thank you. And then their other losses came to Liverpool and Leverkusen, where it's like, that's not really a
legitimate losses.
I say it's not a sign that you're, not playing well. Concerning loss against Zagreb, if they pick up the 3 points there, then they're probably going to go through in the automatic places.
Top 8, yeah.
But, again, I'm not too concerned about it. They have a lot of quality in that team. They have Chad's boy now, Joao Felix, and Santi Jimenez. So
Mr. Passport.
With those two, man, I don't really see how Feyenoord will be able to overcome. Feyenoord's road, by the way, just to touch on it very quickly. Feyenoord
absolutely
got smashed up by I don't really like to say who, because I don't know if it counts.
Arsenal.
I don't know if it counts, depending on the day. So let me just pull up their journey so far, because I know it's been like really rocky back and forth. And
Feyenoord haven't. I got to be honest, just real quickly as you're pulling that up, I don't think Feyenoord have been good enough in the league this year, and that's even before they sold. Like, this is actually the Santi Jimenez derby, because he was obviously sold from Feyenoord to Milan just like a week or two ago, or literally on deadline day. So it'll be interesting, or not even interesting. It'll be interesting to see how dominant Milan can be in this, because Milan have also definitely underachieved this season for the talent, for the quality that they have throughout the squad. Sergio Conceição has come in, mixed results already, kind of mirroring what happened under Fonseca, who was run out of town in half a season. So I'm not like saying this that Milan are awesome, but I think Feyenoord have just had a down year. Like, they're third in the Eredivisie, and it's by some distance behind Ajax and PSV. So
so
they're not even close to challenging for the title.
They got smashed up 4-0 by Bayer Leverkusen. That's what I was alluding to earlier. But I would appreciate a nice little Arsenal win. Smashed up 4-0. Then they beat Girona and Benfica. Then lost to Red Bull Salzburg, which I didn't even know was possible in the Champions League. And then got that big draw against City, which everyone went crazy about. This was right around the time where the wheels started to fall off for them. They beat Sparta Prague, and then also beat Bayern. So again, it's like, oh man, so maybe this team, is a good side. But that was with Santi Jimenez scoring a brace, so again, losing that. Then they got smashed up 6-1 by Lille on the final day. So they were in 11th.
I didn't remember that.
They were in 11th place with 13 points, and with a legitimate possibility to go through in the top 8 if they would have beat Lille. Yeah. But it was down to the wire, but they did end up dropping those points against Lille. The good news though is this the game? Yeah, Feyenoord scored the. Oh no, it wasn't that. I was gonna say there was a game recently where someone lost like 4-1. Or like 4-2 or something like that, but they scored more goals than the other team because they scored 2 own goals as well.
2 own goals?
Yeah. But this Feyenoord result was actually so bad. They scored 2 own goals, and Lille still scored more goals than them. So, yeah. The Feyenoord is just like, again, you need a really compelling case from one of these non-top 5 league teams, and I I don't think they have it. If you look at the quality of the Milan team, guys like my boy Christian Pulisic and Yunus Musa, other guys like that. It's just I feel like it's going to be a little bit too much for a team like Feyenoord, especially without their main goal scorer in Santi Jimenez not at the club anymore.
Yeah, and Calvin Stang is one of their top creators, also out for the tie. So that's just like when you don't have good momentum, and then you're missing, arguably your two most influential attackers from the first half of the season. I'm gonna have a hard time picking you. So yeah,
right.
I'm going with Milan as well, even if I don't love them.
So our next tie is going to be a pretty. You're gonna have to hear me out on this one just a little bit. Okay. Is a Celtic versus Bayern Munich tie.
Okay. I'm here. I'm here to listen.
And I was looking at it, and my first thought was, okay, yeah, obviously Celtic are going to get smashed. And I kind of started to look at each club's seasons, and I was kind of like, it might be a little bit more juicy than maybe one would think. Because Bayern are currently running away with the league, but they've been a lot more rocky in the Champions League. In the Champions League, they had 3 losses. Yes. Obviously, they had that. I forgot about that shit they did on match day 1 against Zagreb, the 9-2.
Oh yeah,
the 9-2 in Munich. But then, they lost to Aston Villa, got hammered by Barca, and got hammered by Feyenoord. And then their other wins, other than that, was Benfica 1-0, and out of form PSG against 10 men 1-0, Shakhtar. And Slovan Bratislava, and it's kind of I'm not really inspired by really any of those wins, and so it's not they've taken care of business against some good teams so far. Every time they've played a team that's been anyway decent, I mean they haven't played well, and even when you count the PSG game, they didn't play well even though they won 1-0.
Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like Bayern are the team that they were trying to get out of the Champions League with this changed format, in the sense of, all right, we got killed both times by the best team in the group, and then the 2 teams that are shit, we beat them all 4 times.
They followed the old formula with the new format.
Exactly, which is funny because Bayern historically have been one of the
dominant
teams that take
group stage.
very very I think they went did they go 2 straight years without dropping a point in the group?
I mean, shit, Nagelsmann got fired after he picked up 18 points in the Champions League group stage. So that's how.
Sorry, you forgot. They had allowed 1 goal, I think, in the entire Champions League by the time he got fired.
Well, I can see why they want to get rid of him. To be fair, you can't ride your skateboard to work.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, he rode a scooter to work. Come on, dog. Talking about just individual player derbies in this one. Could this be the Nicholas Kuhn derby? Was obviously at Bayern for 2 years before they let him go because he's 5'3". But I kind of agree with the point you're making of Bayern, especially defensively, I just don't feel have been extremely sound. And if you're a team that can give up goals, then you have a chance to lose games. That's another reason why I know we're not going to talk about them obviously this round, but Barca is not a team that I'm even though they've been obviously one of the best teams in Europe this year, as much as it pains me to say, I'm not going to sit there and be they're a guarantee to get to a semifinal or, something like that just because of their propensity to leak goals.
Propensity?
Yeah.
I've got propensity.
They've got propensity.
That's what Pau Kubarsi says to Hansi. He's I don't know if he had the propensity to concede this much.
I tell you, between the Spanish,
one of the best center backs in the world, even though he concedes 7 goals a game. But go on.
Yeah, exactly. But I think Bayern's non-stability defensively could be what undoes them, but I don't think it would be against the Celtic team. But I do like your shout about it being maybe a little bit closer than what people would expect. Because on paper, you look at it and you're all right, Barca over 2 legs, 10-2. Or something, or Bayern over 2 legs, 10-2, something like that, which some people would say that's competitive, but I don't know.
Yeah, I thought we were about to do him away.
He scored the first one, didn't
I was
you?
this dude, Giroud, picked the ball out of the net. I was here we go, and they scored 5 in a row. So, Company My last kind of point to kind of make it like an interesting tie is that Company's only European experience was losing in the Conference League qualifiers with Vitesse.
Is this at Anderlecht?
With Anderlecht lost to Vitesse. So,
well, that's a good club.
So it was kind of like, I mean, kind of wouldn't be shocked if Celtic got a result at home, like a draw or a win, but ultimately I think that Bayern's going to prevail because, to be fair, they have been good in the league. I mean, they're like an insane amount clear in the league right now, which 8 points clear in the league right now over Leverkusen, which is...
Well, Leverkusen have just nosedived recently.
Well, they're draw merchants,
it's been kind of
too.
Insane.
They only have one loss in the league.
Two.
It's just like draw over and over again. So gets kind of iffy there. And then our last tie before we really get into City Madrid was Monaco versus Benfica. Immediately when you hear that, what are your thoughts?
I just like Benfica. I think they're the better team right now. Monaco, another one of those that we talked about where they started off in fuego, and then have cooled off significantly since then. They've also got a lot of people who are going to be out. Zakaria is suspended for the first leg. And then they've got Singo, Balogun, and Teze all doubtful for the tie. So that's two, really your two options for who's going to play that right-sided center back in the back three, or like the right back if they're kind of that hybrid back four between Singo and Teze. And then, I like the Monaco attack. Akliouche has been really good. Ben Seguir is like really, I get it. There are like 50 promising young attackers that come through Ligue 1 every season, but I think he actually, the quality combined with the fact that he just goes at people, I think is something I really like from him. But at the same time, I just think Benfica have kind of found... I'm very critical of this guy, but I think Bruno Lage has kind of started to understand the type of team he has, the type of group that he has to put together in certain games. He's got Antonio Silva back in the squad, back in the lineup. He's playing with Thomas Araujo and Nicolas Otamendi. They're kind of playing like a hybrid back three with, then whoever's playing either left back or right back. Probably usually left back because Alvaro Fernandez has been he's got the second most league minutes in the squad. Like it actually has shocked me how much he's played. No, seriously, because I just thought he was like, whatever. They picked him up from City or from United on something cheap, cool. And then it's like, no, now he's like their best, one of their most consistent players. And then another guy who's taken a huge leap for them this year, who I want to shout out, is Orkun Kokcu, Turkish midfielder, because I didn't think when he made the move for $35 million, which I think is a Benfica club record signing, last season, it was like I didn't see it then. Saw it when he was at Feyenoord, thought he was really good. Moved to Benfica last year, and I was like, is this guy, does he make sense? He was 23 when he moved, kind of older for what they profile usually, But this year he's been really good. Only 7 goal contributions in the league, but playing as a legitimate midfielder this year, almost in a double pivot sometimes with Florentino Luis. He's just been really good for him. And I think he could be the guy who pulls the strings behind, to kind of lead him through this tie.
Yeah, and I think that also Benfica are going to be dangerous because they have the best striker of 2015 with Andrea Belotti in on...
Yes, they did just get
in on loan, so I'm excited about that.
Just get Belotti. And somehow even him at 40 years old still looks younger in the face than the guy who's their starting striker, Evangelos Pavlidis, who has got to have had the roughest 26 years of life all time, because that dude looks at least 47.
I think all the time that he aged was just in that Barca game, that 5-4, where he scored a hat trick, and then they still came nowhere close to ever winning it. At no point did it feel like they were going to win that game, but he scored a hat trick, so it was like, let's get excited about that. But I also have Benfica going through, kind of talking about that good case. I don't think Monaco have been particularly great, and I don't think their players are. I mean, I saw they're relying on Nika Biereth for goals, and he was released by Arsenal a couple years ago. So I'm like,
I think he scored 2 on his debut for
yeah.
Monaco, funnily enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they love ex-Arsenal strikers.
Yeah, Balogun, clearly.
I'm surprised they didn't sign Eddie Nketiah when he was on the market.
Yeah, I guess maybe the Lyon ties were too strong, but like they couldn't have gotten Lacazette like when he was.
That's what I'm saying.
Starting to bounce around France, like what's going on?
Hey, well, he was like the league on top scorer last year or something insane like that. So
Leon wanted $40 million for.
I actually love that. But so let's hop on to maybe the most interesting tie. I mean, the tie that's obviously going to headline any advertising of this round: Man City versus Real Madrid. Now, interestingly enough, it kind of seemed like there was a point where each of these teams looked like not that they weren't going to go through, but it was going to be tighter than maybe people would think.
No, yeah.
And then Real Madrid.
I mean, City legitimately looked like they weren't going to go through.
Correct.
When it was halftime against Club Brugge and they were down 1-0, it was like, is this team just going to be like, hey, we're good?
Yeah, Real Madrid after match week 5 were in 24th, which is the last qualifying place. And then City was legitimately out of it, like you said, after match day 7. And then they went down 1-0 to Club Brugge. And it was like, wow, so they're actually about to go out. But now they're obviously both through, but now they're playing each other. And this is why the format isn't good, I think, because people are just the big clubs are supposed to go through, but we also want upsets. So I don't know what are your. I mean, you're a Real Madrid fan, so what are your immediate thoughts when you think about this tie?
It's funny. I've kind of done a back and forth, and I'll try not to make the monologue too long. But when this is I think the 4th year in a row we've played them in the Champions League. So, first 2 years when we played them, I was like, yep, no chance, really. Just gonna have to park the bus, hope for maybe a counter, and that was probably more City at their peak too, the way they were operating. Ended up beating them one of those years, obviously when we won the 2022 Champions League. That was Benzema. Rodrigo, obviously with that iconic brace. Hopefully he'll be doing it for Arsenal one day. I just say that for you, not like I want to get rid of him.
At Meridian. That's what I remember about that tie. We were at Meridian watching it, and he scored that brace in like 2 minutes.
Bruh, that was crazy. Good times. But then last year when we played him, I was like, you know what? Like, and you can ask Jonathan Ryder, who was just on the pod last time, because we were talking a lot at that point about the tie. I was not worried even in the slightest because I thought City's defense was just too exposed, too open. This year, I'm kind of like, you can kind of talk me into any scenario because I think both of these teams are fairly flawed right now. Madrid's, I think, have a little bit more to do with injury. City, I guess you could say, have to do with injury as well, because as much as I think their midfield has no legs, if you have a controller in there like Rodri, the legs part isn't going to play as big of a factor, or it's not going to be as noticeable. So, and then when you get to the back line, it's like, we were joking the other day when it was like, all right, Alaba and Rudiger are both going to be out. And I think Rudiger would probably play in the second leg if he has a chance to, just because that's the type of player he is. But the back four of Tchouaméni, Asensio, Vasquez, and then Fran Garcia, who has somehow usurped Mendy as the starting left back, versus whatever City back four, even though they're healthy. It was like, well, which one's got the worst back four? Because you really don't know right now. I mean,
when
City have given up 30
center backs in at halftime yesterday. That was all time stuff.
City have allowed 35 goals this season in all competitions. That's crazy. So I don't.
There's only one team that's
not in all competitions. Not in all competitions. This is just in the league. Mm-hmm. They've given up 35 goals. Yeah, we know. We know who's put up 7. Damn, that is crazy. Y'all put up 7 of them
in 2 games.
Exactly.
I'll hush. We haven't won as many trophies as Erling Haaland.
Stay humble, eh? Stay humble.
I haven't won as many trophies as Haaland.
I gotta say,
Haaland.
Yeah. Just real quickly, that's such bullshit. And this isn't Ethan. Like, I get it. Maybe people will say, "Oh, you guys are you're sticking up for him because he's your brother and the podcast co-host." Right? Exactly. Like this is. I just don't understand where it's like, all right, you beat the shit out of City. Like, you don't just beat them, you beat the shit out of them. No doubt about it. Game was not, you could argue maybe for like 5 minutes game was in the balance after City equalized. But really not even, because Arsenal scored like kind of immediately right after. So maybe for about 45 seconds game was in the balance. And then because they won that one now, and it's not even because they won that one, because they celebrated beating the hell out of somebody. That's the reason they lost to Newcastle in the Cup. Like, what are we even talking about? Like, this is why I kind of hate some of the former players, because it's like, so you're not allowed to celebrate any win, but then at the same time you're like, oh, look how much it means to them, or some shit like that. Whenever like someone does celebrate winning a game, so it's like, when can you celebrate? When can you not? Like, is there a handbook out there for all of us non-former professional athletes that we can kind of just follow along with?
And then it's like a flow chart. It's like, have you won X trophy? Are you better than X player? We got into this the other day, but it's like, I don't understand, like, people being, because it's a give and a take. Like, you get shit on, you shit on other people. You're allowed to sort of do it when you do it to other people. And I feel like the people that are really policing it the most, it's funny when the professionals do it, because I'm like, I didn't watch the games live, but I feel like there's no way in hell Gary Neville wasn't giving it Zidane when they played it against him.
Yeah.
I feel like there's no way in hell Roy Keane wasn't giving it Zidane and being like, oh, but it's like, well, Zidane's 3 times the player you ever were, so I thought you weren't allowed to do that.
Yeah, and Roy Keane, who we know is like a passion merchant, like that's like the one quality he was able to bring to the game. And it's like I find it so hard to believe that it was like, because like, say what you want, the dude definitely won a bunch of big games. I mean, he's clearly got a shit ton of trophies that he won. You don't just win those by not winning big games, although weirdly enough you actually can. Like, there's no way he just won a huge match and was like, all right, good job, and then just walked off the pitch into the locker room with a scowl like this on his face.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, it's okay to celebrate. Like, it's okay to be happy about what you do, but I don't know. Back to, I don't want to get us derailed down the Arsenal, because I know we could double the length of this podcast if it was up to you as a producer. But all is that to say, I'm going to obviously pick Real Madrid just because, like, it's my team. It's my guys. Like, it's really my soccer guys. But I think the midfield, and I've said this about 3 or 4 different matchups, but the midfield is really going to be where it's won for us. It's going to be a mix of Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, and De Bruyne. Maybe a little bit of Foden in there, who's played better as of late, but still not, to his...
Had a good assist against Arsenal the other day.
Still not quite to the level that you would associate with the guy who's the reigning PFA Player of the Year, but whatever. But then you look at Madrid's midfield. I think Ceballos is going to play a huge part, and Ceballos is like, look, in theory, would you want a better version of Ceballos? Yes. But then you actually look at what Ceballos does, and it's like, if the player was any better, then he wouldn't do the stuff he does as far as the running, the work rate, the extra tracking back, going for that pass that no one else is going for, diving when he needs to dive. Talking about like sliding, not like just flopping, because he does that all the time. Yeah. He does the flopping all the time. So he's gonna and he's kind of reinvented himself as like this deep line playmaker who can like kind of keep it ticking and all that stuff, and that allows guys like Valverde and Bellingham to be more advanced, obviously, even though, and when we talked about it, it was like, are they just playing with one midfielder? That's going to be tough. And then Camavinga is back now as well, which I think is going to be super crucial because just as far as like a mobile ball winner, I think he's like one of like the best in Europe, truthfully. And he just hasn't played at all for us this year. He's only played 500 league minutes, which is crazy. I didn't even realize it was that low. But yeah, I think with the midfield, it's going to be just enough to kind of see us through. And then, like the Real Madrid formula, can you get a couple of individual moments of brilliance from a front three that I think has started to look better? As you talked about in that Atleti game, there was a lot more interchanging. You were seeing Mbappe pop up on the right-hand side, even on the touchline on the right at certain points. Rodrigo. That's the thing. All three of those guys dribble, pass, shoot. They're comfortable doing all three of those. So when you have that, and you have guys who can drop into the half space or can run in behind, I think that gives you a lot of options for a City defense that has struggled against predictable teams. So when you try and allegedly have them go against an unpredictable attack, I think that creates even more headaches for them.
Yeah, I know we kind of want it to be, but I really don't think that this is a big, complicated tie at all. I don't really think that there's a way that City goes through, especially since it's happening now. Like I said, maybe if it was leg one now, like you're saying, if it's leg one now, leg two, a month and a half down the line, then maybe I could see a way where they could get a win. But it's when their current form, they've been so poor. And it's, I was telling Savannah when I, watched them a couple times, it's they would just give the ball away, under no pressure, just giving it to the other team. And I'm I've never seen a City team ever do this, ever. Not even a Pep team, an actual City team. Even back to the days of Yaya Toure and freaking 100-year-old Frank Lampard playing center mid for him. I've never seen them give the ball away as much as they do now. And in
the first time they were cheating.
Exactly. In horrible areas too. And it's just even when they get in the final third, you would think, it's I was oh, here's Doku. Oh, here's Savinho. Oh, here's Marmouche. Here, it's just kind of I at no point do I ever, and then Kevin De Bruyne plays 25 minutes a game for some reason. So even when you listed him as one of their midfielders, it's I don't know, is he going to start? I mean, you would think he would at least start their big games if he was on some sort of minutes restriction or something like that. But it's he came on in the 65th, 70th minute against Arsenal, which I know people don't want to admit is a huge game, but away at Arsenal, away at the second team in the league, that's a big game, and they were just nah, we're not even going to start this guy at all. So it's kind of insane to me.
De Bruyne, no, I was going to say the De Bruyne Pep dynamic is something that we've been kind of talking about for the last 6 to 12 months. And even if you, some of the stuff he said about him recently, where I think this is not, it was the last game he played well. I think it was right before Arsenal. It might have been that Ipswich game where Pep was oh yeah, he's Kevin De Bruyne back to the best form of his career. And it's as soon as he says that, De Bruyne is just at a different phase of his career, because there's no way if he's beat Kevin De Bruyne, you need to pump him up like that, saying just a straight up lie.
Right.
So that was almost a bat signal to me, being okay, maybe he really doesn't trust this guy anymore.
Right. And it's just it seems like his legs have gone. He's obviously still got some quality left in him.
Now, I know he's going to score 2 in the first leg now.
Well, but I mean, he scored a great goal against Leyton Orient yesterday. So I mean, he's back into the swing of things. But yeah, I don't think that the City team just isn't very good, and they don't. I can't say that Pep is quit, but it doesn't seem like Pep is working, usual magic with them. But like you said, they're probably going to end up, doing something crazy, at least making it a good tie, if not going through, and we're going to look like idiots. So, but I'm perfectly fine.
Not me. I'm still. I'm not saying believing in City, but I don't think this is going to be straightforward at all.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you say, I think it's going to be fairly straightforward, unless you guys play like ass, which.
Which is possible.
It's possible.
That's.
I just don't think it's going to be
how many times
of City.
It'll be self-inflicted wounds.
Correct. It's not going to be Bernardo Silva, Kovacic, and Foden are just going to go out there and have an absolute midfield masterclass, and they're going to play you guys off the park, and it's going to be 1-0 or something like that. It's Real Madrid had 5.3 xG, scored 1 goal, and then City won a pen, and Haaland scored it. And he's cold. He's cold for that. So that's how I can see maybe a close tie coming together. But other than that, I don't think it's going to be two teams going back and forth playing really really well, and then City comes out on top.
Speaking of cold, can I say something?
What's up?
This is like a PSA, period. I don't care who it's for, what player. This isn't just because it's Atleti. or because it happened yesterday where I saw it highlighted most. When someone hits a penalty, like, we need to stop acting like this dude just nailed a 3-pointer from half court.
When people start using words like composure and ice cold in his veins, it's like, now I'll give a slight pass to Julian Alvarez because at least he like chipped it down the middle, which like is like, I mean, it takes a lot of confidence. But like you said, like scoring a big penalty in a big.
That's what Bernardo told me.
Scoring a big penalty in a big moment, it's like you said for NBA, like, oh man, 2 minutes left. He's got two free throws. Let's see if he makes one of them. Like, what?
Oh shit!
He's so cold. He just made a free throw.
Trae Young hits the game-winning free throws.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I guess I get it because it is a goal. Like, I'm not even gonna do the whole that thing where it's like it's not even a real goal, but it's like,
it's definitely a goal.
But it's like it's a penalty. Like no one, like it's like
you should make it.
Yeah, like if someone scores a tap in the 6-yard box off a rebound and it's a winning goal, you're still allowed to celebrate it and you're like sick for it and it's a game-winning goal. But don't come here and be like, oh, he showed great composure to score in the 92nd minute and win the game.
Popped up in the right space. Yeah, popped up in the right space, right opportunity.
It's like, dude, he scored a pin that he didn't even win. Like, what the hell are we? Like, what the hell are we talking about? I agree with you to for the most part, but actually chipping it down the middle was pretty tough.
No, what? Like, look, especially in that game, like, it was pretty sick to do that. But it was nowhere near as good as Benzema at the Etihad. Let's just be straight about that.
Now we're comparing penalties. That's what we're doing. Harry Maguire in the European Championships final against Italy.
Well, you definitely don't want to compare people's penalties in the Euros.
Well, the Real Madrid players did well in that game, to be fair.
Wait, in that game, England versus Italy? Mm-hmm. Jude?
Can't even take a pen.
He played his role, though, mentally.
Dude was like 15.
I was going to say, dude was like 6. He wasn't even on us at that point. No.
So yeah,
that's funny as hell.
Was there any last minute thing that you kind of wanted to end us off on? Maybe a possible round of 16 tie that we could see that you might be interested in? Like I said, nothing is quite set in stone yet, but just looking at the bracket, was there anything that kind of piqued your interest?
Yeah, there is. I think the opportunity for Atalanta to really make a quarterfinal push is alive and well. And as like I said, like I'm not even necessarily in love with their team, but like between Lille and Villa, I'm not going to sit here and be like, you can't beat either one of those teams in a round of 16. So that's probably an interesting storyline. But honestly, like some of these matchups we could get, I mean, like, assuming PSG are going to go through, they're going to play Liverpool or Barca. That's going to be an awesome tie.
Because, I mean, the only tie that happens more than City Real Madrid is Barca PSG. So
yeah, no, that's actually a great call. That's a great although I feel like PSG are just like I know there's got to be a meeting every August being like, hey, we're going to make sure we screw PSG at least twice, right? Like, I mean, when you talked about their group stage, the teams they played, like they played like 4 of the toughest teams in all of Europe.
Everyone kind of agreed that they've always had, or that they had the hardest road this year. It's like an absolutely insane one. I mean, even if you look at, I think it was City where it was like, they got wins against Bratislava, Prague, and Club Brugge. It's like, there's PSG didn't get to play any 3 teams that bad.
It's the typical group of Man City, PSV, Young Boys, and CSK Moscow.
And it's like, man, they made it through. They looked really impressive in the group stage.
Exactly. But yeah, so those I would say are the big ones for me. Also, Inter, really good chance that they're going to end up playing an Italian team in the round of 16. So I know you'll be locked into that.
100%.
What about you? Anything kind of jump out for you?
I mean, Arsenal, like you said, with that same sort of tie.
Yeah.
Arsenal, depending on what side of the bracket we end up in, really, really hoping for that winner of the Feyenoord Milan game, because it might be a harder tie in the short term. Because I think Milan's probably better than either one of Juve or PSV, but I would much rather play a Bayern or a Leverkusen or Atletico Madrid in the quarterfinal than Real Madrid or just Real Madrid. Really, I'd rather play any of those clubs.
I'm looking at the teams that Arsenal
just very quickly, even like past that, like the other teams, like if we were to get past Bayern, then the other teams in that side of the bracket are Sporting, Dortmund, Monaco, Benfica, Villa, Lille, and then of course Barca or Liverpool, which you're going to have to play one of those eventually anyway. So, I mean, if there's a possibility that one of those other teams could get through and you won't have to play a Barca or Liverpool, I'd much rather take that chance to be like, we're going to have to play Real Madrid in the quarterfinal after we beat Juve. So,
I'll be honest. I don't think Arsenal would be like the 4 teams they could play: Juve, PSV, Feyenoord, Milan. I don't think they should be even remotely worried about any of those teams. Although, look, there was a tough sledding against was it Porto last year in the round of 16?
Yeah, I mean,
who you guys were definitely
stages of the Champions League are hard. It's kind of like, when we kind of make jokes about like the NFL playoffs. Well, it's not even a joke. Like, it's real. Like, it's like, man, the playoffs are hard. It's kind of the same with the Champions League knockout stage. Like, unless you're playing like an actual team that's horrible, like how City would play Copenhagen. I don't know what these groups were where Copenhagen would go through or something like that, or Shakhtar would go through, but City would always play them in the round of 16, and it's like, unless you have a tie like that,
I feel like I've seen
hard.
City play Copenhagen at least 12 times.
I know it's not possible. Copenhagen was in that United group. That's how they went through.
Oh, last year.
They were in that United
when
group.
United, when it was supposed to be Bayern and United, and then United pissed themselves.
Yeah, and even though Højlund was, I'm pretty sure, top goal scorer of the entire group stage, they still shit the bed and weren't able to go through. It wouldn't be an episode.
Gave it up to the other Højlunds, actually.
It wouldn't be a Group Guys podcast episode unless we doo-dooed on United just a little bit, but, that's just a personal thing.
Speaking of, actually, you brought me onto a topic I did want to just throw at you real quickly. Top scorer. Do you have a favorite right now? I'm going to read off the list of who are the... Oh, shoot.
I think Rafinha's second.
Rafinha is second on 7. The top scorers, we got 2 joint top. There's no chance in hell you'll guess one of them. Lewandowski and Sehu Guirassy tied on 9 goals.
I told you, freaking Dortmund were scoring the hell out of some goals in the league phase.
The rest of the top 5 are Rafinha is third with 8, then Vinny with 7, and then like 7 guys tied with 6: Alvarez, Haaland, Kane, Gyökeres, Jonathan David, Griezmann, and Florian Wirtz.
I could really...
Who stands out to you as top goal scorer?
I could really see Lewandowski, because especially if they get... I mean, really either of these ties they would get in the round of 16. I think that guy like Lewandowski would probably score like 3 in that tie. And really, regardless of whether they win in the quarterfinal or not, he's probably going to score 1. And it could be one of those weird situations where like the Golden Boot winner is just not a guy... You would just assume it to be a guy that made it to the final. But if he has 13 goals and he goes out in the quarterfinal, then like I don't think it'd be insane, because we already said that Dortmund are already on the ropes as it is, so I don't think Guirassy is going to be scoring a ton more. Rafinha's he's in great form, but he's still a winger, so the goal scoring of wingers, same with Vinny, can kind of be up and down, and so I just feel like Lewandowski would be, if I was a betting man, would probably be my safest bet.
Fair. Yeah, I'm looking at Kane right now. I'm thinking like, I know we talked about the Celtic tie maybe not being as straightforward as people think.
But it could also be like a hat trick and a 4-goal haul for Kane.
Well,
I
think probably the most realistic scenario would be like kind of like what you said, cagey affair at Celtic, 1-1, or maybe, Bayern just nick a win barely. And then they come home second. Yeah, exactly. And just bury them. And like you said, Kane scores like 4 or 5 in the tie. 5 of them are going to be penalties, definitely.
Or just weird ones where he's the only great striker I've ever seen where he just gets like these pullbacks to the penalty spot unmarked and he just smashes them in the top corner. I'm like, how is this dude open? Like, I understand that it's good movement and stuff like that, but like, How are you not just holding his jersey the entire match and just being like, you're just not going to get away from me?
Yeah, I don't get it either. Although, to be fair, I guess when you're playing Bayern, there are a couple of guys on the team that are pretty okay.
Are there?
So
it's just Leroy Sané.
Yeah. Who is in Sané right now, I will say.
Yeah.
Scored again at the weekend.
Yeah, but, man, Champions League. It's so nice to care about it now that Arsenal are actually a part of it. You know, I went like a good 4 or 5, 6 years where it was just like, I honestly couldn't care. Who care less who went through, whatever, because it was me having to watch like all my least favorite clubs do well. You know, I was like, oh shit, here goes Spurs getting to a Champions League final. Here goes Liverpool winning it. Here goes City going through and winning a treble. Like, screw all this. So now kind of having to stake back in the game is fun.
I was going through a weird Andres Villas-Boas deep dive yesterday and stumbled on a fact that Arsenal have the record for the most points ever for a team not qualifying for the Champions League. So I think that's probably where the hatred for the Champions League stemmed, and it's just kind of evolved from there. But I'm glad to see you back.
I think he was manager too when they finished 4th and didn't qualify for the Champions League, because Chelsea.
Who, Tottenham?
Yeah, because Chelsea finished like 6th in the league, but they won the Champions League, so you automatically requalify. And I think I'm 99% sure Spurs finished 4th that year, and then they didn't qualify for the Champions League.
Well, I was shocked. The whole reason I ended up doing this deep dive is because I saw a TikTok saying that he was the Spurs manager for their best ever season, and like the most points they had ever had in a season. And you hear that, and you're like, what the? Yeah, exactly. And then I looked, and I was like, damn. And then it was like, but they did not qualify for the Champions League that year. I was like, that's literally classic Spurs.
Wait, you said Arsenal did that, or Andre Villas-Boas?
No. So both situations it happened, but Tottenham's at the time was the most points ever for someone who hadn't qualified for the Champions League. But then obviously the Arsenal thing came a couple years after that.
Arsenal actually also, I'm pretty sure one year we like set the record for like the first team to ever go through in the Champions League after losing their first 3 games or something like that. It was something insane. I remember we lost Zagreb.
The Cincinnati Bengals award.
We lost Zagreb away, and I thought, like, it was insane. I think this is the same year that we played Ludogorets, and it was that night in Ludogorets with
So you guys had the city draw.
Literally. I think we beat Bayern in the group stage that year, too, or something insane like that. So it was us, Bayern, Ludogorets, and Dinamo Zagreb. That was a hell of a group. So
that's the classic second place. You get the hell beat out of you by the first team, and then although shit, the way you're talking looks like y'all lost to everybody.
You know what
somehow.
I actually like to call it? It's the U.S. at the World Cup, where it's like, all right, so there's one team in this group. There's no way in hell that we're beating. There's one team that's like kind of on our level, probably like an African or a not very good South American team. And then there's like some rando Asian team that's just we're going to beat the shit out of. So, and that was the formula for this past time. We didn't exactly follow it, but it was like England's definitely way better than us. There's no way in hell we beat them. Iran's horrible. Iran's horrible, so there's no way that we're going to lose to them. And then Wales, because they've done weird stuff in international tournaments recently, they're kind of on our level. So got 2 draws and a win. So that was big for the boys.
Just not good, but good enough.
Yeah,
the American
not
way.
God, but good. So, thank you guys for tuning in to episode 25. Really, really appreciate the support on the episode with Big John Ryder. I think right now it's at like 45-ish views, stuff like that. Kind of mentioned it the other day that we're above 50 subscribers right now. I think we're like 53, 54. So, really, really appreciating the support. And we'll see you guys in episode 26 next week. See you later.